welcome to today's video. In this one, we have got the brand new iPad M4 Pro, and we are actually taking photos at Niagara Falls to answer the question, is the iPad Pro worth it for content creators? So why we're at Niagara Falls is because A, I love taking photos, and I've never actually taken this photo, but B, we want to see if we can actually use the iPad on the go as is promised for content creation. And so to test out if the iPad's actually worth it for content creators, we're gonna be capturing a photo carousel and maybe a little bit of video and editing it in real time on the iPad to see if you can edit with it on the fly. Content creators, we're on the go all the time, so it's probably really important to have something super portable. I know for myself, I wanna avoid bringing my laptop with me when I'm traveling at all times. So the iPad's been that thing for me that I've always wanted so that I can just avoid bringing a very expensive workstation with me wherever I go. So when we take our photos, we're going to dump them on the iPad, edit outside and in a cafe to test whether you can actually see the colors accurately, use the iPad with ease, and of course, see how portable it actually is. All of the things that we're wondering about the daily use of an iPad and if it's actually worth it. So the model we've got here today is actually the 11-inch Pro with the nano-textured glass, which is perfect because it's supposed to cut reflections, meaning that this technically should be the tool that content creators are gonna wanna use when they're on the go. So we've gotten a few photos already of sunrise in all the different directions with a lot softer light, but I'm gonna walk you through what we did so you know what we're gonna edit and what we're gonna be looking for while we're actually editing on the iPad. So camera settings, we've got the lowest ISO possible at 125. We've got an f8 aperture and 1/4 shutter. We're gonna bracket, so we're gonna get a long exposure with the ND filter sitting on this at around 2 seconds to get that water nice and smooth, and then edit it all in post. Now the unfortunate part about this composition specifically is that we have to take this shot at 24 millimeters. I probably would have liked a little bit more compression with 35, but given where we're at, where the light's hitting the falls, this one looks the best. So I'm gonna put that photo unedited up on screen right now, so you can take a look on what we're getting. All right, so the goal for me today is to come out from actually photographing here with a photo carousel. So we want to grab maybe like 3 to 5 photos just of the location to be able to tell a better story with. And obviously that's going to be the test of the iPad, is can we edit a photo carousel on the fly, high quality, and know that it comes out actually pretty okay. So the next location that I want to do that with is there's a little house that you can grab some photos of neighboring the falls, and it's just like a nice complimentary photo that I've seen a lot of the times. It's a photo I've always wanted to take. So in addition to that main waterfall photo, we're gonna grab this, maybe a few more around the area with some added textures just to tell a bit more of a story, and then we're going to edit with it. Now the whole time we're doing this, I've actually got the iPad just in my bag, and it's literally the lightest thing I've ever had in my camera bag. I've traveled with my laptop before. It just adds all this extra weight. This new iPad Pro is literally unnoticeable on my back right now. So keeping that in mind, I'm pretty happy with it. So the photo we're gonna take is right down there is the little house I'm talking about. So we've got the camera up here just on the rocks, pointing right down to the house. Shooting at 70 millimeters now, same camera settings, bracketing it for long exposure, and hopefully that's gonna give us a shot. So again, I'm gonna put that up on the screen unedited, so you know what it looks like. We're gonna find a couple more compositions in the area, and then we're gonna get down to editing. The way the light is cutting across the falls right now is absolutely insane. So I definitely don't wanna miss this one. So I'm gonna go find a spot to actually edit the photos at, dump the photos onto the iPad, and we'll get started into seeing if this thing is actually good on the go or not. One other thing I really want to try with the iPad is actually editing video. So we might shoot some other things with the iPhone or even with the Osmo Pocket and see what footage we can get, put together a little reel with Final Cut at some point. If that's something you want to see more of, also comment down below in the comments. We can do a lot more video tests on this channel too, in addition to photo. But you guys have been asking for the photo stuff, which is why we're here today. Okay, so the iPad is sitting in the Peak Design 20-liter backpack, which a lot of people are wondering, you know, how does the iPad fit in the backpack? Is it actually comfortable to use? Honestly, guys, it's so small as an 11-inch. I'll show you exactly how it sits. In the backpack itself is just like a little compartment. Pull it out, nice and easy. So honestly, absolutely no complaints there. And in my camera bag, I got the Peter McKinnon 30-liter backpack from Nomadic. It's even easier to use. You don't even notice it's there. In the laptop sleeves itself, you can actually fit your laptop and the iPad in that backpack together with the Smart Folio case. Literally no issues as far as like scratching wise goes or protection. You're pretty much good to go. So we got the iPad out. We're gonna download the photos now, which all the photos again we're taking on the Sony A1. These photos can range from 70 to 100 megabytes. I've noticed that if you use the USB-C cable that the iPad comes with, the read-write speeds are just so slow. So to port them over into Lightroom, we're actually going to use a Lacy hard drive cable because it's just so much faster, and that's how we're going to go about it. I will say there is a ridiculous load time all the time when you're connecting the camera to the iPad itself. So I really wish it just went instantly, so you got to wait a little bit though. This isn't going to work. All right, so slight change of plans. Basically what happened was a very important feature for the iPad that in my opinion is actually a make or break thing, which I can't believe we realized it this morning. But we went to go download the photos, and basically what happened is 2 days ago I had a video shoot and I still had those video files on my SD card even though I downloaded them onto my computer, and I shot the photos on the same card, and Lightroom on the iPad actually can't download the video files. So when I went to go install these new photos into Lightroom, it essentially took way too long to find the photos on the card. So my thought was I would just sit down, have the photos readily available, and I'd be able to edit in real time. And instead, it took a full hour and a half for Lightroom to find these photos. And instead of us freezing beside Niagara Falls, we simply decided to go get brunch because we were hungry and cold and we weren't about to wait that long. So we timed it, and it took an hour and a half for Lightroom to find those photos on the same SD card that the videos were on. So now we're back at Niagara Falls because I still want to edit on the iPad in daylight. So at that time, it was maybe around 8 a.m. when we first started putting the photos on the iPad. Now it's 9:30, so the light is very different. It's a lot harsher, which I think for the sake of today's video is actually a better test because the lighting's just gross. So it's gonna make for more reflections, worse color correction conditions, and we can really see what it's like to edit on the go on the iPad. So already I can tell you that if you are a content creator and you're hybrid shooting, which I'm gonna say pretty much all of us do, and you're editing photos and wanting your videos edited on the iPad, you're in for a much longer time getting access to those files, which maybe for most people isn't that big of a deal because realistically, you're gonna go get your content, you might go for lunch, you're gonna connect your camera, and then you can edit your content whenever you want. But if you're wanting to edit on the same day, you're short on time, you're in the airport maybe and you just took some photos and you're hoping to get some editing done in the airport, it's gonna take a long time for your editing software to actually end up finding your files. So I did look this up. This is actually a new thing. That's a problem. Maybe there's some extra features that get added to the iPad to make file reading faster. I don't know. I just found some Reddit threads quickly to see if it was something wrong that I was doing or if this is an actual thing. But yeah, definitely worth knowing for content creators as it affects what you're gonna end up doing with this. So anyway, we're gonna find a new spot to post up like the original idea was and see what we can edit. All right, so as I was saying, the iPad fits great in the bag. So now we're gonna do this for real. Okay, so I like this photo. Now we're gonna edit this with the nano-textured glass outside, super harsh lighting conditions. And the thing with this is that I'm not going to change it. I'm gonna leave it how I see the photo here so you can see the difference of like how I'm viewing it on my iPad, assuming that I'm editing it correctly versus how it's gonna show up on Instagram. Now I have noticed with using it a little bit already, for other photos that there is a slight difference in the brightness levels. So the photos here will be overly bright. When I bring them to my phone, they'll be a little bit darker. So that's one thing that I'm trying to get used to, and it's probably something that you can just, correct for. So always when I'm editing photos, I just go with the auto exposure here, and then playing around with the shadows a little bit, bring down the whites, lift the blacks, just always trying to flatten images as much as I can. Now already, like, there's no glare on this, but it is a little bit hazy from what I'm noticing just being in super bright light like this. I've actually never edited a photo outside before. I've always been indoors in a lighting controlled environment. So let's mess around with the tone curve then and see if that helps us out a little bit, adding some contrast to this. Good. Now, I'm really not a fan of vibrance, and for some reason, Lightroom always decides to add way too much vibrance. Let's go to the color mix. So let's adjust this. A little bit more orange. Luminance going here. See where the reds are, bring the reds down. Okay, so greens. Now, always when you're editing, like I always go for a little bit more of a monochromatic look. So I tend to bring my greens just a little bit more desaturated, keeping luminance here a little lower. And then obviously the blues with the water, it really just depends on how you want to correct it. But when we add the mask in here, so one thing I'm noticing is the brushing is nearly impossible. So you are absolutely not going to be able to brush in real time if this is something you're looking to do. Pretty much next to impossible. Definitely need to have a little bit more control with how the exposure shows up. So we're going to swap to a linear gradient, add in a radial gradient maybe. Let's move this here, brighten this up a bit. Now to get the look that we're after, we're obviously going to need a color grade. So let's see how we can do this. Add a little bit of warmth. Let's coolness to the shadows. Let's add a little bit more warmth in the shadows. And then bringing the saturation down on all of these. Well, now normally I would go like very crazy with the brushing on the waterfalls because we don't want our water to be brown like this orange hue we've added. We want it to be a little bit bluer. So changing the color temperature here. Okay, I'm gonna apply one of my presets on a different one. So we have a reference photo. On the iPad right now, this looks okay, but you definitely need light. We're gonna put this up on screen actually, and then once we go into an indoor environment to edit, I'm gonna look for more of the details and see how much finer I actually need to make this, because there's a couple mistakes that I'm seeing right now that I'm like, oh, I really need to fix that, but let's see how quickly that actually needs to go. And then when I applied the preset just now, it made it way too orange, I can already tell you that, and there's probably some coloring issues and a lot of masking that needs to get done. But I'm gonna tell you right now, with the way the light is on this iPad, like, you're not getting anything exact outdoors. Like, you definitely need to be inside with this. But I think it's possible if you're looking for quick edits, but likely not gonna be able to do the trick. So the next thing we're gonna do to test this is head on over to inside. We're gonna go find a Starbucks or something to sit down in, or maybe even just like a shaded area, and see what editing is like over there. All right, so we got ourselves a drink, a little pineapple refresher before we start editing on this. I've never had one of these before. I'm gonna give it a solid 6 out of 10. I'm a big Starbucks guy. I'm drinking matchas on the daily, but today, pineapple refresher is what it is. So, we got the iPad in the shade, and I wanna edit these photos now. Proper sitting, better lighting, no reflections. And honestly, I just opened up the photo we just edited, and I'm actually pretty okay with this. It actually looks really good. So I'm kind of surprised because I thought it was horrendous while we were editing it in the moment. With the amount of sun that was hitting the screen on this nano-textured glass, I definitely couldn't tell exactly like what was going on. I kind of had a rough idea because I've edited so many photos. My hot take on this is that if you're probably experienced and you've got, you know, a ton of sun glaring down on this nano-textured screen, you might be able to get the job done, but I'm gonna say, like, even right now in the covered sort of area, like, the screen just looks so much better. So if you have the chance to actually cut the glare on your screen, obviously it's gonna be better, but you can probably get the job done. So we are gonna go ahead and open up the next photo now. Okay, so the last photo we edited was of the main fall area with that little house that I was mentioning earlier in the video. now I want to edit a photo, I think, of the American side of the falls. Why is because the sun's in frame and the photo is a lot brighter than the photo we just edited. So we're gonna go ahead and hit auto on that, and it corrects for the nice little sky there. And we're just gonna go ahead and see what we can do. All right, so the biggest thing when I'm editing a lot of my photos, I always lower the clarity. And clarity is one of those weird things that requires like a lot of photo information in order to actually see what's being changed in the shot. When I'm editing on this iPad right now, I've just gone ahead and made the basic adjustments. But when I'm throwing in the clarity slider, unless I'm doing the extreme slider changes on this, I'm gonna say it's not really noticeable on this screen, which kind of sucks because it's like a bigger part of my editing workflow. So again, I know what clarity does to my photos, so I'm still gonna apply it, because if I put it on desktop, I 100%, I'm gonna know what it's doing. But right now in the moment, if this is my first time editing with an iPad, I'm gonna say you can't really tell what's going on. So again, we're in an uncontrolled lighting environment still, like while it is covered with the reflections, it's still not gonna be ideal for like noticing those slight differences. Versus in my last editing video, when I had it laying on the desk in my room, like I could see pretty much everything very, very, very clearly. So we're gonna go ahead and make those basic color adjustments again, and just make sure we can blend the hues of the sun itself into the photo and just make it a little bit more seamless and colorful, because it was a really nice sunrise after all. So we're gonna add a lot of warmth into this shot, and we're gonna change the crop on this because I like the clouds. And now this is the real test. So editing in the sun, masking was near impossible. Right now, masking is already, I can already visually see like it's gonna be way easier. So always what I like to do is edit with a radial gradient that draws the attention to my main subject. When I inverse the gradient, I'm gonna just draw attention into the fall area. And the trick is to just not make it obvious that you have a like vignette going on towards your subject, which in this case is the waterfall. And that's a little bit harder to control with the iPad itself. So what I want to do is add these linear gradients to just make it a little bit more seamless. And then I'm going to brighten up the sky slightly, and then pull a little bit of the color back on the sun, just because the amount of orange in the sky is looking a little bit fake at the moment. And that's looking a lot better. I'm going to brighten up the waterfall itself and add a little bit more exposure with a loss of clarity on there, just to make it look a little bit more like magical with an Norton effect. And if you don't know what Norton effect is, that's just when you add like a glow to water or lighting in particular. And then we just need to go to the color grading and add that look that we applied to the last one. So we're gonna add some orange into the highlights, some more yellows and warmths, and then some blues into those. Apply the balance and the blending the same, and then we're going to want to apply a little bit more contrast to the shot, and we're going to dial this back just a bit. Now already I'm just seeing that it's a little fuzzy, which isn't ideal. So we are going to apply back the clarity to sharpen it, and I am gonna call that one done. All right, and obviously the biggest part of today's video is gonna be like a nano-textured glass review. Is it actually worth the purchase? In my opinion, I think you probably don't need it. Why is because even with the nano-textured glass, editing outside in this extremely harsh light, it's really not gonna get you that photo editing quality you probably need to get high quality images. If you're a content creator though, like UGC style, TikTok content, that kind of thing that doesn't really require color editing, and you still want to have a clear screen that isn't too big of an issue, then it's probably a good purchase, but you're still probably going to be able to see your iPad with the new OLED screens, given that it's so bright and such high quality. So it's really like dependent on your needs as a content creator. Personally, I think you probably don't need it and you can get away without it. For my purposes today, I don't think it helped me really in any way. I would have been able to do what I needed to do without the nano-textured glass. Was it nice maybe not having some added reflections in the shot? Sure, because I could see my screen a little bit better, but it really isn't make or break. So the question then of, is the iPad actually good for content creators? I'm gonna say yeah, but if you're on a budget and you're debating between, you know, a really killer laptop that's between $4,000 and $6,000 to edit your content with, or an iPad, I'm gonna say pick the laptop over the iPad for the time being, just because you're gonna wanna have those high quality editing workflow checks regardless, even if you do have the iPad and you're, you know, on that upper end of like photographer, videographer style content creation. But if you're on the go a lot, you want to bring an iPad around because you're worried about your laptop coming with you, traveling, security issues, then I would say get it. If you're not too concerned and you're willing to have that sort of secondary helper tool. Because that's how I'm thinking about it. It's more of just an add-on so that I don't need to bring my laptop around with me and I can feel more comfortable about it. Plus I have something at home when I need to make those final edits with. All right, so with that, that's gonna take us to the end of the video. I'm gonna put up the final photos from today up on my Instagram. So if you wanna check that out, the link is in the bio. I'm gonna mark which photos were actually edited on the iPad here today and which ones weren't, so you can see just how much better you can make photos when you're in more of a controlled environment, editing by yourself, and just really taking your time with things. I think grand total, probably spent, you know, 6 to 15 minutes editing 2 photos, which normally that's like half the time, even like significantly less time than I would normally take dialing in an edit. So really just to give you a better idea there. That said, there will be a part 2 for video editing specifically. That video is gonna be out later this week, and I'm gonna go down, shoot sunrise, make a reel, take it to the studio. That's the idea. And I'm really excited for that one. So if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below what else you want to see, and of course, I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.